Let me set the stage for you. You have researched, outlined, rehearsed all of the preparation needed for an important presentation. You walk into the room, whether it's your team meeting or a massive keynote speech, and you're getting ready to talk. The nerves are filling you up. You start your presentation, you start to deliver your content, and all of a sudden you are distracted. Not just a little distracted, really distracted. And the thing that is distracting you isn't a buzzing sound, it isn't the failed technology, it is your audience members' reactions. They might be scowling at you. They might be shaking their head at what you are saying. They might even be asleep. And so you might start to think to yourself, oh no, this is going terribly wrong. I need to do something to shift the energy in this room, and I need to recreate my content on the spot so that I am meeting my audience's needs. While that is a natural reaction, it's not the best reaction. And today we're going to talk about maintaining our confidence despite the audience feedback that you might be getting. To do that, I'm going to give you 2 very important facts and then 3 different strategies on how to manage audience reaction and use those audience reactions for you instead of against you. So first and foremost, audiences are unreliable. Now, I know that may be harsh to say, but let me explain. First of all, an audience member is not necessarily concerned about their own facial expressions. So they're not always aware on the way that they are expressing how they are receiving your content. Second, and more importantly, everybody learns completely differently. I'll give you an example. During one of my keynote speeches, there was a gentleman in the very front row sitting in a very relaxed style, as if this auditorium seating was his own personal lazy boy. Not only did he have a very, very casual and relaxed posture, but he was also scrolling through his phone, obviously on social media. Now, that got in my head because I thought, why would you sit in the front row and actively ignore or dismiss the speaker? I thought about saying something to him. I really did. I thought about correcting him or guiding him or doing the old teacher trick, which is proximity, which is where you stand very close to the person who is not paying attention. But instead, I chose to use my energy on the people that I saw were actively engaged. And let me tell you, I was completely wrong in the way that I viewed this gentleman. Because right after my talk, he came up to me and asked me very specific questions about my talk and recounted for me almost verbatim some of the things that I said. Again, different people learn differently, and we can't always rely on our audience to give us the most authentic and real reactions. Fact number 2, you are also an unreliable source of reading audience reactions.
But Eric,
You may say,
I'm an experienced public speaker. I know when the audience is with me, and I know when they're not with me.
and I'm not going to disagree with you. Absolutely. There are different strategies, especially if you have ample experience in front of an audience, that you can understand an audience's overall experience of you. However, keep this in mind. Adrenaline is pumping through your veins as you're in front of an audience. There is so much stimulus going on in through your eyes and into your brains, and you are processing that in nanoseconds. And sometimes our own stories get in the way. So if we have apprehension that maybe the audience isn't going to really resonate with this message, we might create that story in that moment. So if we see the lazy boy up front scrolling through social media, we might think, oh, this person is completely disengaged and I'm doing a terrible job. And that may or may not be true. So how do we do this? How do we maintain confidence despite our audience's reactions? Well, there's 3 strategies that you can implement. The first strategy is an old theater saying, and the saying is this: do the show you know. The concept behind this is that despite all of the energetic emotions that you might be having, even on opening night, it is absolutely imperative that you follow the script and follow the plan as you rehearsed it. And I know this is challenging. Sometimes you tell a joke that absolutely crushed the week before, and it bombs. Sometimes your content lands really, really well. Sometimes you get confused faces. But if we sway too far away from our content, there's a lot of pitfalls. Number 1, you're giving up your power and control as a speaker. You're letting your audience determine your content, not the other way around. Number two, you're stepping into a high anxiety space. If you've prepared effectively and you go on the fly with something that you haven't prepared, you don't quite know where that path is going to lead you, and most importantly, where it's going to end. So you got to make sure that you stick to the plan regardless of how the audience is reacting. Now, strategy number two directly contradicts strategy number one, and that's this: follow the learning. Now notice, this is slightly different than use your audience's reaction to determine where you're going. The phrase is follow the learning. And here's what that means. If you're seeing a lot of confused faces, if you're seeing some angry faces, that is a great time to stop and check in. More importantly, within your keynotes or your workshops, it's important to have those check-in points already established. This can be done by asking a question, setting up an activity, or even clarifying to the audience what you're experiencing. I remember some time ago I was doing a contract facilitation. I had been hired to deliver a very specific training. When I began, everything was fine. We were getting to know one another and we were setting the context for our time moving forward. But throughout the first hour, I started to get a lot of scowls, a lot of raised eyebrows, a lot of looking around and seeing if everyone else is experiencing what they're experiencing. It was enough for me to take a pause and ask, hey, I'm seeing a lot of confused faces and I'm seeing a lot of frustration. Help me understand where you are. Turns out that there had been an error in scheduling and I was delivering the wrong training. I had been scheduled to deliver part one of the training, but they were expecting part two of the training. So there, I was able to make adjustments to follow the learning and give them the content that they needed. But notice, I didn't just wing it. This is a training that I had delivered multiple times, so I felt comfortable calling an audible right in the middle of the play. If an audience member wanted to take us in a completely different direction, that's where I would say, awesome, I love this question, I love this topic. Let's connect after I'm done talking because I want to make sure that I'm serving this audience with their particular needs. Finally, strategy number three. Measure your impact. As I said before, audiences and you are unreliable sources of immediate feedback. That's because you're all processing not just the content, but how you're feeling, thinking, and what you're going to do with the content. So the best thing to do is to set up an objective way for your audience to give you written, data-driven feedback. This can look like feedback surveys that you hand out after your talk. I personally love to use Talkadot. Talkadot is a really, really simple tool and it is free for all speakers to be able to get very quick, actionable feedback for them to grow. And yet another strategy is to set up a follow-up meeting, either with a trusted member of your team or the event planner. This meeting can help give you the appropriate feedback that you desire in a confined context, not just immediate response. Look, I get it. I love when the audience is with me. I love when they're laughing at my jokes. I love when they are pensive in the content that I'm delivering. I love that connection that I have with them. And truth be told, it's impossible for a speaker to have that connection every single time. We're all processing, we're all learning in different ways. So as you're delivering presentations, either to your team or to general audiences, it is absolutely critical that you do request feedback, that you do absorb the information. Keep it neutral so that you understand that your feelings aren't getting in the way of your actual improvement, but that data-driven, hardcore evidence, that is what's going to guide you to your next steps. Hey, if you haven't done so already, make sure that you hit subscribe. Share this video with a public speaker who might be a little bit anxious about their audience reactions. And as always, make sure that you come off mute and speak up your story. We'll see you soon.